Happy Monday, everyone, and welcome to Earth Day.
We're here. We finally
are here. Yeah, meteorologist Jacob Wyckoff, Terry Ellison, our executive weather producer here at WBZ. Terry, it's been, I think, 2 weeks since we've done this, so we thought, what better day, because it's Earth Day, because we've got at least a fairly chill weather week, but stuff going on.
Yeah.
Why not hop on?
Stuff's always going on.
Yeah, why not hop on Facebook Live? Why not hop on YouTube Live? As always with these platforms, you can chime in, talk to us, let us know what you're thinking, and we'll be monitoring the comments and taking those questions along the way.
Yeah, just so you know, we're going to start off talking about Earth Day because it is Earth Day and what we're planning, which is a lot. But we're also going to get into some stuff this week. We got frost and freeze headlines to get into. Pollen, there's some great stuff going on, astronomically speaking, meteor showers, International Space Station. We got lots of stuff to cover. But I think it's fitting that we start. It is Earth Day, so we should start there. And tonight, we kick it off with a piece that you have worked very hard on.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a really cool story. You know, sometimes when we tell the story of climate change, we use actual data, temperatures warming, sea levels rising, that sort of thing. Yeah. But we can also use other data sources. And I talked to this professor who works at BU, and he used Henry David Thoreau's Walden book and all the observations that Thoreau took 180 years ago in Concord at Walden Pond. He used that to compare Walden Pond of then to Walden Pond of now. And specifically what he was looking at is the types of wildflowers that were there, the flowering times, the ice in and out times of the pond, a lot of different sort of what we call biomarkers here. He used those to show that climate change is affecting Concord, Massachusetts, and it's a big deal for us to see how it's changed over those 180 years or so.
Yeah, I mean, we just don't have reliable data that goes back that far, right? I mean, we're lucky in Boston that our records go back to the late 1800s in many cases, but to get data so specific, like Henry David Thoreau recorded way back then, and to be able to compare it to where we are now, it's remarkable, and it speaks to just how much our climate has changed, not just in the last 10, 20 years, but in the last couple hundred years.
Yep.
So a remarkable story. Again, Jacob's been working on this for many weeks. So definitely tune in tonight at 5 if you want to check it out. But all this week, we'll have a different and unique climate-related, local climate-related story here all week long, culminating with a half-hour special later this week.
Yep.
It'll be on TV 38, Friday night at 9, and on WBZ Sunday at 1. So really proud of all the work that we've done. Yourself and Eric, Jason, and Alyssa and Lexi they'll all be having different pieces this week, and really came out really, really nice.
And one of the takeaways that we want for this Earth Week is that, you know, Earth Week, Earth Day, we celebrate over a day or a week, but every day can be an Earth Week. And it's really just about being conscious about the world around us. I joke to kids when I do these school talks, you know, we only get one shot at this Earth thing. We're not colonizing Mars just yet. So we really need to take care of the planet as we are. And we're really proud and honored to tell some of the stories that we're telling. It's not just the doom and gloom of climate change, which our climate is changing, but there are also people working really hard to make the planet more sustainable, to figure out ways that we can adapt. And you know, I'm really actually proud of Thursday's story too, because we talked to a young entrepreneur who is taking an ocean byproduct, lobster glycoprotein, and he's creating this gigantic skincare business from it.
Amazing.
And so it's amazing stuff. There are really smart people working to fix this issue, and
so many of them work here locally. You know, we're really lucky to live in such an advanced and, you know, just intelligent area of the country where there's so much being done.
Absolutely.
And it, you know, as we wrap up the Earth Day part of this, I mean, let's not forget that you went to Iceland.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about burying the headline. Like Jacob's story on Wednesday at 5, he actually went to Iceland, and there are definite parallels. Things that are going on up there are going to have an impact here. It's just fascinating.
Yep. Yeah, so Iceland, they have something like a few % of the world's glaciers, but if their glaciers were to melt, it would cause big issues globally, because their glaciers melting means other glaciers are melting. And so we talked to a few different people in Iceland. I got to walk on Solheimafjökull, which is one of their most popular tourist glaciers there and on the south coast. And talk about a different landscape that is just every direction you look. It's beautiful. I think New England's beautiful, and it is, but it's just a different foreign landscape. Highly recommend going to Iceland if you have ever thought about it. It's really, really simple from Boston. Iceland Air, it's 4.5 hours.
Yeah, not only is the story fascinating, but the pictures. You had a drone with you, just stunning imagery. So yeah, that'll be on Wednesday. Can't wait to see that one.
Yeah.
We should probably start talking about some weather stuff.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that.
The interesting thing about this week, and I talked to one of our web folks, and they said the number one Googled or searched for topic was pollen today.
Okay.
And so interestingly enough, I mean, everybody searched, not everybody, but a lot of folks have issues with pollen, and this is the peak time as far as basically late April into May is tree pollen season, the peak time. And so today we have alder, juniper, and poplar are just off the charts. And so I think a lot of folks are like, am I getting sick, or is this just allergies? It's probably allergies.
Right. Yeah. It's one of those things that it comes with the territory, and we have seen that we got the last couple of weeks with the rain that we had prior to that, just things bursting with the pollen.
Yeah. And as you can see, this is a kind of a complex chart, but you can see the brown representing the tree pollen spikes late April, early May. Then we get a little bit of a break before the ragweed season comes in August. But speaking of climate change, studies have been done. This is thanks to Climate Central over the last 50 or so years in Boston. If you're probably, I feel like every year we do the story is, are allergies getting worse? Right. It seems like they are. Well, I don't know if they're getting worse, but the allergy season is definitely getting longer. By approximately 2 weeks, actually, in Boston. Since 1970, between 1970 and now, that allergy season, the growing season, has lengthened by about 2 weeks, which is good news for some farmers, but bad news if you suffer from allergies. It's a longer season.
And have you noticed it because I know that you are an allergy sufferer.
Yeah.
Do you notice,
good question,
the pills a little longer?
So the answer is yes, but I don't know if it's just because I'm getting older and my allergies are getting worse, or if it's legitimately science related. I mean, either or both are possible.
It's one of those things that it's good, like you said, for the farmers, longer growing season, but for people day to day, they do have to prepare for that.
And again, another thing that comes this time of year, frosts and freeze. We have a frost advisory out tonight, as we did last night. The frost advisory is up for southeastern Mass. The interesting thing about this is, and I got this question last night, actually it was from my wife, we were watching the weathercast, and she's like, oh, so there's not going to be a frost up here, we live northwest of Boston. There's not going to be a frost up here, it's just down south of Boston. Not exactly.
Right.
Technically, the growing season hasn't started yet for parts of the area north and west of Boston, so they don't issue the frost freeze alerts until the growing season starts. Growing season has started south of Boston, hence they've issued the frost advisory.
And this is one of the things that we always get this time of year. We always get those early planters. We want to get those plants in the ground, but our old adage is Mother's Day.
Absolutely.
We wait till Mother's Day, then we can put them in the ground, and if we have to cover them up at that point, then we'll do so. It becomes much, much less likely that we get the freezes as you get towards the middle of May.
Yeah, and so this time of year, again, as you can see for kind of the story of this week, tomorrow morning, again, frost likely in a lot of the burbs. And Thursday morning might be the coldest of all, and that's when we have a chance of a freeze, which would be several hours of temperatures, probably in the mid to upper 20s in many of the burbs. So.
And so if you have put your plants on the ground at that point, that's where you gotta
to be
cover
concerned.
them.
Yeah, and I would think that most folks, I don't think many, pansies are probably okay, some of the cold crop vegetables, but anything other than that, anything that's typically like a spring, like a tomato plant. I don't think people have planted those yet. But if you are, beware.
You wanted to get an early start on things. I mean, it was really nice.
I know it's tempting.
Hard. It's tempting. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Astronomically, lots going on this week. So we have a full moon coming up tomorrow night, and the reason why. So this is good and bad news. And you say, why is it not going to be bad news? Well. The full moon is going to interact and kind of dampen the meteor shower show tonight. So we have the Lyrid meteor showers tonight. They peaked last night, so tonight is kind of like what's left over.
Right.
But because the full moon is going to be out, that you really want a dark sky to be able to see a meteor shower. With that full moon out all night, again, it's past peak anyways for the show, so. Basically, what I'm saying here is if you're out later tonight, take a look up. Maybe you get to see one, but I wouldn't plan the night around it.
Absolutely. it's not just the meteor showers streaking through the sky, though. We also have a pass of the International Space Station.
And this is so cool. If you've never seen it, this is one of the coolest things, to be able to look up in the sky, and it looks just kind of like almost like a plane, but it's at much higher altitude, and it just, for 6 minutes, again,
It's a really good pass, 6 minutes.
6-minute pass, 75-degree height, which is almost basically right over top of the head. The only caveat here is you got to get up kind of early.
You got to get up wicked early, yes.
4:55 in the morning tomorrow, but if you happen to be an early riser, it should be a clear night. And then you just look up overhead. It's going to be going from west-southwest to northeast, and it's just so cool to think, like, my goodness, there are literally astronauts up there flying over.
Yeah, 14,000 miles per hour is how fast.
Yeah.
And they get, I think, 19 sunrises every day. Yeah, something like that.
Cool.
I did a talk with a couple astronauts on the International Space Station a few years ago, and I remember having to research some of those things. And it was around one of their 19 sunrises or sunsets that they see that we got to talk to them.
So you got the full moon, you got the Leonids, you got the flyby, and in general, a pretty nice week of weather. I mean, that's probably the best news of all, is that we seem to be coming out of that pattern that we were in through much of January, then much of March, and beginning of April, of just soaking rainfall events.
Absolutely. My kids, we had to move the soccer practice to the turf fields.
It never ends.
It's one of those things that it's going to be sort of a whack-a-mole that we have to play. But to your point, it's a fairly calm week. We just have really Wednesday that we're going to be dealing with some of those showers.
And Wednesday's not one of those days where we've got 2 inches of rain and flood concerns. It's a passing front, maybe a rumble of thunder in the afternoon, but this is nothing that is going to be no more of the flooded basements, none of those concerns.
Right.
Hopefully we're getting out of that pattern for a little bit.
I should mention we are on CBS News Boston streaming, but also on Facebook and on YouTube. So if you do want to chime in, we'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have, whether it's Earth Day related or pollen, or let us know what it looks like in your backyard. If you've put any flowers in the ground, feel free to use those platforms to chat with us. We don't have any questions as of yet that I see, so don't be afraid to chime in and talk to us. We love hearing from our viewers.
Absolutely.
And even on Twitter and Facebook too.
So we just threw up the temperature map for the next 5 days. So average high, it's hard to believe, the average high is already, it's 59 degrees. It'll be 60 in a couple of days. We're already to that point where the average high is 60 degrees.
Love that.
Getting there.
Yes, we are.
We're getting there. And this week will be kind of like flirting on either side of it. There's no major warmth. No major cold. Of course, we'll have some cold mornings, but in general, a typical late April week.
Absolutely.
Which I don't think anybody's going to complain about.
No, average is not bad this time of year. Yeah, we can definitely get some pretty heavy rains or even some snows at some points. But yeah, it's just going to be a normal week.
Yeah, and so I think, again, for those that may have outdoor plans, I know baseball season's in full swing. Soccer mostly a fall or spring season?
It's both.
Okay.
Yep, both
seasons. No doubt, a lot of sports going on. Lacrosse, I think Wednesday's really the only day this week where there may be a little disruption there. But otherwise, even into next weekend, it's a ways out. Looks pretty good.
I love that.
Looks like it's going to warm up next weekend.
So Jim is chiming in. He's listening and watching in Lawrence. Appreciate that, Jim. The other thing that we want to ask is if your community has any Earth Day events planned, we'd love to hear those. Throw them into Twitter, throw them into this chat here. But we want to highlight some of those because there's so much good being done in the community. Yeah. Lexi and Alyssa, they had a chance to. Where did they head?
Yeah, so I went out with them last week to Marlboro.
Okay.
There was an Earth Day related cleanup. It's unbelievable. I don't know, just driving around on highways or byways, there's so much trash on the side of the road. And this is classic this time of year because things haven't, greened up yet.
Yep.
You look around and it's gross.
It is.
So this organization, Keep Massachusetts Beautiful, they have a sort of satellite operations in, I think it's 40 some odd towns around Massachusetts. And this one in Marlboro was great. So Lexi and Alyssa and I went out. They had 20 volunteers that day from a local company. And we bagged, I forget the amount of pounds of trash they bagged in just 2 hours.
Yeah, and there's plenty more.
They're going
to spend all day there. Yeah.
Really, yeah. I mean, the things that they were pulling out, I don't want to gross anybody out, but they pulled out a giant cow tongue. A cow tongue, a TV, a smash TV, and then, of course, just tons of plastic bottles and those. Sorry, I should have warned you.
How did that cow tongue
I don't know. I don't know. But point being, there are all kinds of these organizations all across
Yeah.
southern New England. So, and the Keep Massachusetts Beautiful people are asking, like, you can go on their website and start your own in your own town.
Great.
And actually, my wife is thinking about doing it where we live. So, it's just too bad, like, that there's that. I mean, they cleaned up 150 tons of trash last year alone. Just this one little organization. Anyways, not to bum people out, but Earth Week and Earth Day is a great time to get out and just, if everybody just picked up their road, their
Yeah.
little corner of the universe, like, you know, it would be much cleaner.
I think to your point that it highlights the need, but also the good that people are doing, right?
Yeah.
And so Harry goes, Happy Earth Day. Is today like meteorological Super Bowl for us? I wouldn't say the Super Bowl.
No.
I think it is a day to celebrate the Earth, and
Yeah.
obviously as meteorologists, as scientists who look at the Earth and its physical processes, this is a day that we appreciate, and so we rally around and tell the stories.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's our Super Bowl.
No, I don't think so. I think Super Bowl would be sometime in the winter during a blizzard.
Oh, blizzard, yeah, that's where we...
But no, I think today's just a day. It's a good day to remind folks to be mindful of, you know, we're stewards of this planet,
Yep.
and you want to leave it in a good place for the next generation.
Exactly.
And again, that should be something we do every day. But
Yeah.
today's a good day to sort of remember that and stress that. We've got several Earth Climate Central graphics. I mean, I don't think any of this is a surprise to anybody that. You know, the planet and temperatures have been warming over the last several decades. Massachusetts alone, 3.5 degrees on average in the last 50 or so years.
One of the things that I posted a couple of, you know, coming soon things on social media, and some of the people chiming in are like, you know, I've lived here forever, the climate always changes. Yes, but the rate at which it changes nowadays
Yeah.
is sort of unprecedented.
Yeah.
And that's where we as scientists need to be clear that yes, we acknowledge that, you know, 150 million years ago the climate was different than it is now.
Sure.
But we're able to see how it's changing in ways that we never have been able to. And it's a direct causation. You add more carbon dioxide to the atmosphere,
Yeah.
it will warm. We know that cause and effect. And so, you know, it's always a tough conversation. We want to hear people out. We want to hear their points of view. But the data is really clear
Yeah.
that our climate is changing.
Yeah, I mean, climate change in itself, like you said, is not something new. The climate always has been changing throughout the history of time. But like you said, it's really about the extremes now and how quickly it's happening.
Right.
I don't think you don't need to be a meteorologist to know that we've had a lot of extremes. It seems like every other year we're either in drought or we're in flood.
Right.
Drought, flood,
There's
flood.
no in between.
There's no, yeah. And again, the averages really are just an average of extremes in general, but the extremes are coming much more frequently than
Yeah.
ever before now. And again, that's related to rainfall, snowfall. We get nothing, or you know, next year we could get hit by multiple blizzards. Like that's just the way sort of the things have been trending.
And I talked to Governor Healy, which an interview will be coming up next month. Excited to share that with you. Their administration, and even the prior administration, Charlie Baker's administration, they're planning for 2.5 feet of sea level rise over the next 50 years.
Yeah.
Here in Boston, and 2.5 feet of sea level rise. That means the entire seaport is underwater, and that's just on a regular day. You add
Yep.
an astronomical high tides, you add a storm on top of that, you're talking 5 to 10 feet of sea level rise.
Yeah.
That's devastating.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that we are almost too late to adapt to at this point. We really, and really a lot of our change over the next 30 years is already cooked in, is already baked into the system.
Yeah.
Because carbon dioxide doesn't just automatically disappear. So doom and gloom aside, we still live in a beautiful place. We still live in a beautiful planet, and there are still a lot of amazing things, but we want to make sure that that's taken care of for
Absolutely.
my kids, your kids, and their kids.
Yeah, and Earth Day today it serves as a great reminder that, you know, it's really on us, and you know, and you say some of these things we're a little bit behind the 8 ball on, or maybe too late, but it's never too late to treat the planet with respect,
Right.
and you know, to not throw the litter out the window. At the very least thing, the Keep America Beautiful people were like, you know, a lot of these things, sea level rise, there's a lot of complex things going on, but the one thing that we can all do on a regular basis is just keep our area clean. Don't
Yep.
throw trash out the window. Pick up trash if you're out on a walk, like, you know what I mean? those are the very least thing that we can do is just to do our small part.
Absolutely. Not getting any more questions in on Facebook. Let me check YouTube real quick and see if we have any there.
Just a reminder to those joining a little bit late for weather-wise. Again, frost advisory's up tonight. So if you did jump the gun and you put out some of those non-hardy plants, you'll definitely want to cover them up at the very least. If you can bring them in, even better. And again, the frost advisory is technically only in effect for southern parts of the area, but really everywhere.
Yeah.
Lows tonight will be in the low 30s. And again, Thursday morning looking even colder. So hold off on the planning just a few more weeks. But otherwise...
Last question here from Jim. It has been mentioned that Salisbury Beach will be underwater possibly within 30 years. Unfortunately, I don't know if it's going to take 30 years.
I mean, they've been underwater several times in the last few months, frankly.
Right.
But
and they're spending their own money, private dollars to replenish the beach. And unfortunately, a lot of those efforts have failed. I mean, I guess it's worked, but they've had to repair. Yeah.
You just can't bring in enough sand and enough dirt. And former WBZ meteorologist, I'm not going to mention any names, has a place up at Salisbury Beach. I was just talking to him over the weekend, and he's actually on the marsh side, not on the beach side. But even there, he's like, we're in trouble.
Wow.
And this is somebody that knows the situation up there, has been there for decades. And that's just one area. You know, this is basically going to be the story up and down the coast over the next several years.
Yep.
I would not want to buy an oceanfront I would love an oceanfront property, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot that comes with it now.
And we've done this story, and it might be worth investigating in the next year or so, but the insurance. And a lot of places they're just dropping that sort of coverage just because the liability is so extreme. So appreciate everyone tuning in. We will do more of these as we promise over the next couple of weeks. If there is a topic that you want to have us discuss, we'd be happy to do so. Really excited for this week, though. We have some really great stories that we're going to tell. Each of those stories airs at 5 p.m. on WBZ, so I encourage everyone to tune in and watch those, and then chime in. Let us know what you thought of it. If there's another piece of that story that you want us to go and talk about, we'll see if we can do that.
Sounds good. And Jacob has done so much work. He's got 3 stories during this week. The guy went to Iceland. At the very least, give his stories a watch. Every night at 5 this week, and the specials again. TV 38 9 o'clock on Friday. WBZ 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday.
Awesome, everyone. Well, we hope you have an enjoyable Earth Day. It's going to be pretty pleasant, so go and enjoy the Earth.
Yes.
We'll see you here maybe this time
next week.
Next week. Sounds good.